Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining the third panel and actually the last panel of Faber Forum 2025. Really excited to be here. For me, myself, it's the first time actually being on the Faber Forum, so it's a great opportunity for me to learn, but also share some nice experiences from top leading experts in the field. I'm conscious of time, so we'll try to make it brief, but also keep it interesting. So as you heard, the third panel is about shaping future cities, and we are going to talk about how innovation, sustainability, and let's say human-centered approach can actually make our cities more livable, more sustainable, and more future-oriented. And here I have three experts in their respective fields, some of them in nature, based solutions, modular architecture, and also, of course, Besian as well, who is coming from North Macedonia and sharing his experience and his, let's say, projects in its country. I would like to open, actually, the panel with a question for all three. Like, when we think about, let's say, future city, what, in a simple word or a simple definition, we mean by future cities? How does it feel in practice to have a future-oriented city? So, Cameron, if you could start, please.
To capture that in a single sentence.
Or a paragraph, if you...
I would say what I imagine is a city where nature is everyday infrastructure, where data is a public good, and where every neighborhood is cooler, healthier, and easier to belong in.
Interesting. Maciej?
Yeah, for me, human-oriented environment created on data, climatic data. That's the sentence in the nutshell, I would say. But also, I feel like in all of the tech, all the data, we have as well the climate discussions. It's really important to think about as well the well-being of people. So like by well-being, I mean the psychological state of people. So we don't get lost in the numbers only.
Fair enough. Besian?
I have the belief that shaping the physical form of cities is something that probably each and every one of us would have their own opinion. But what is most important is the shaping of relationships, relationships in the sense of relationships between people, spaces, the built environment, and ultimately the systems. Yeah,
definitely. Besian, I was. Oh yeah. Well, Samuel, please join us. Yeah. Actually, Jakub could not join us. He could not. He was in good condition, so yeah, he might be following us. I'd like to keep it with Besian. Actually, like you have designed and you have been part of projects actually in North Macedonia and Skopje, such as the Skanderbeg Square. How do you balance between modernity and actually keeping the local and traditional values? I mean, we had in the panel before the CEO of AIC, and I was also thinking, which is also a question to you, how do you, let's say, keep the balance between private interests but also the public value of it?
Actually shaping identities of cities is, of course, joyful for us, but also, I would say, tricky, especially in this part of the world where we tend to generate more history than we can consume, yeah. But I would also like to point out that shaping cities is. I mean, you mentioned the Skanderbeg Square. It's a competition that we took part back in 2010, so that's like 15 years, and the project is still ongoing. Some part of it is already realized, and I would encourage you to visit Skopje and enjoy this this public space. But a huge part of it is still not realized, and we hope that it will continue. Construction. My point is that shaping cities it takes time. As in the case of the project that I mentioned, and that it definitely needs inclusiveness, and actually it's one of the issues why this project takes time, because as you can imagine, shaping a square, a public space, brings together many parties and interests. So, shaping future cities is a thing that takes time.
Well, as everything that needs to be done in a sustainable way, of course, we need better planning, and considering better planning and prefabricated, let's say, solutions, but also modular architecture. Maciej had a brilliant presentation before. Maciej, what can Albania learn from Polish experience, but also on an EU-wide experience regarding, let's say, the presentation you just did, and taking into consideration that, do you think that innovation is moving at the same pace as cities are moving socially, or is it, how do you balance that as well?
Well, I feel like there's a lot of innovation. It's only about like implementing it, connecting the dots in a proper manner. And then the proper use of funds as well, the EU funds, but in other places which are not part of the European Union, you have also European investment banks, which were, for example, devoted to our region, like Poland, and this region is the same. And so it's the proper usage of this. Plus, I feel like what we heard in the very beginning today, in the first presentation of the Albanian Investment Corporation, the way how you program the city is important, where it's not only like about the looks, but what later someone will execute, someone will pay for. So if you basically have already this network, it's easier to do things. So I would say this is something that was already in a few places done in Poland, and we've been participating in competitions. And already by looking at the brief, you know if it's a good competition or a bad one, if the program is well studied. So you know that in the end, you're not going to design a building which later will change the function like 5 years or 10 years. And like implementing, I see something that in Poland and many cities was happening, and now it's being stopped, is the urban sprawl of the city, where the city grows in this wild manner, and how you basically later also fix this issue is by densifying the gaps in the city centers, and taking care about like properties that had legal issues that were left alone for many years. So that's something that was happening in Poland, and as I compare and I observe, it's also, once I see as well the level of investment in the city center here in Tirana, it's a good direction for sure. So that the city is more solid in the core, and then it doesn't sprawl and consume, because later as well it's hard to connect infrastructure, water, electricity, all the off-site buildings. They then run on boreholes. What happens if the borehole expires? I mean, the water resources are not infinite. Some are drying. So this is something, important once you think about like generally the planning of the cities.
Definitely, and even though there's a lot of investments, especially from the private sector in Albania and especially in Tirana regarding architectural and urban planning projects, we need to take care of nature as well. So there's a balance to be made, and I think this is the key word of let's say, shaping future cities in a balanced way. So Cameron, you work on nature-based solutions. You also had a good presentation on that, but in practice, what does it mean to, let's say, have a duality between technology and nature? Can they actually work together? Is it something doable in the near future?
I believe so. And it's about having the twins of natural systems and sort of the digital equivalents. And also to pick up on your previous question around the pace of change and the risk of inequality and people being left behind.
Out, yeah.
Even if you're in AI and that's your focus, it moves so quickly, it is just intimidating. So there is the risk of the digital divide widening as people get left behind. And so one of the ways, whether it's nature-based solutions or other innovations that rely on AI, it's important to have equity considerations built in up front in governance, in budgets, procurement, so that's locked in. And also that there's transparent information around who benefits, so public dashboards, and also co-design up front was one of the points I made. An example of that, briefly, in Greece, there was a vacant lot, a city lot. And so they did a public participation, they understood the needs of that site and the people, but then they used generative AI to create 100 different models of how that space could be used. You know, use a community garden, what will it be, a microforest, what will it be? And then they involved the local people in the co-design of that space. So this is where an AI and technology is used together with local communities to end up with solutions that meet the requirements of the site and also accommodate for the needs of the neighbourhood.
Samuel, thank you for joining us. First of all, what does the future city mean to you? How is that envisioned in your mind? And yeah, I would like to focus more on the inclusiveness of the city. Like we talk about the city of tomorrow, but how do we make sure that innovation, exactly what Cameron was telling us, it doesn't pace out, let's say, inclusion. It moves faster than inclusion and leave people behind. How do you see that from your point of view?
No, you know, like cities in general, they are a product of time, no? And I'm afraid that maybe we are trying to accelerate that time right now. So we need to be very careful when, you know, forcing the cities to develop too fast. We have been talking about smart cities, and I think, as we all know, the smart cities might include a lot of different topics, such as nature-based solutions, such as smart transportation systems, etc. But we need to be careful on how are we providing these solutions, how are we providing this transportation, because a lot of these services, they are being developed by very, very big companies. So sometimes this topic of smart cities is also a good umbrella to privatize a lot of services that should remain public. So this is just one simple note to show that we need to be very careful when forcing this this quick evolution of the cities, while forgetting that the cities are normally a product of timely and slow evolution. Yeah.
And in your line of work, let's say, how do you balance the let's say, this fast-paced drive that it's sometimes from the public, sometimes from the investors, with your approach as an architect? How do you? I'm very curious to hear about it.
Yeah, we work mainly with the public. So our time in the office that we measure, as you might understand from our presentation, we measure almost everything in the office, but 70% of our time is dedicated to public clients and 30% for private clients. But we don't make that big difference in between the public and the private, because I always believe that, you know, architecture is always to find, like, say, the right balance between a small group of private interests and the public good. And it is always like that. It is like that when you work with a private client who wants more and more, you know, more floors, more square meters, and you need to balance this expectation, and it is legitimate, obviously. So you need to balance this expectation with the common good, with the common regulations, but also when we work with public clients, there is always some, let's say, particular private interests behind it. The contractor, the decision maker wants to show something to the city. So we don't make that big difference in between the public and the private. What we try to do while working mainly with prefabrication is to show, let's say, this common, this public good that we can do through these methods. And we can identify these several good actions, not just in the architectural quality, but also, as I said before in the presentation, in creating better labor conditions, in creating, you know, less disturbance in the building site, and also, and it is very, very important, there is a direct relation in between the level of implementation of prefabrication and the productivity in the building sector. And it is not an abstraction. This is very important because normally the construction industry plays a significant role in the country's economy. So the more we foster technological off-site methods, the more we are fostering also the local economy. So I think that this is the path that all the countries should, you know, force to do.
I have a cross-panel question as well, which is if you would leave, like, let's say, a manifesto or your message to future-oriented or, let's say, to future generation of urban planners, of architects, of urban enthusiasts such as myself, what would it be? I would like to start with Cameron.
I would say to not forget that people are embedded within nature. And it's easy to forget that if you're in a city and you see concrete, and yes, there's a few trees, but even a city is part of the ecosystem. You know, the air, the water, the nutrients, the energy that flows. And when you understand that and you acknowledge it and then see every decision, every building in the context of it being part of the ecosystem, will end up aligning cities with nature so that then we cannot undermine the very system that we're dependent on.
Maciej?
So yeah, I mean, like with all the tech craziness that, or hype, or like apps, that are will be available soon, or like we, for example, the project that I showed, when we adapted an office building complex, underneath you still have a parking. It's a forest, each type, 96 species of plants, 12 types of trees with 50 trees. They grow on still a parking on 3 levels. And each plant, we planted in 3D parametrically, and we're like testing in seasons as well. And we're now in real life in the 2nd season, and it grows beautifully with like after sunlight analysis, water analysis and stuff. And then also, you know, we, as for prefabrication, when the refugee crisis was in Poland in 2022, we worked on housings for refugees, projects, prefabricated ones, and we've been working with a company from Texas that works with AI, with a psychological lab, basically, so you can assemble a building in a better way, because people come with traumas, and like, why not thinking about it? So you have all these things that later maybe also would be not like a crazy idea, but people would be using more often, designers, but still there's this thing, as Cameron said, like this biophilic approach that we're like, biophilia is the built-in desire of a human being to be close to nature. That's one thing, and I would say the other is, as Jan Gell once put, he said that as well, how a public space starts. Well, it's two people sitting, and then the third place where you sit is not, well, we're right now on a panel, so we're like facing the people sitting on the other side, but like that you're facing each other. So like it's a triangle. So then a public space starts when three people sit and they see each other and they can talk, and not they're so they're not aligned. So I would say like the simple stuff as well, it's important to remember, like the natural approach, or like how we basically start creating a public space, a good one, from scratch. And I see many investments as well in Poland, for example, in Warsaw, where like big budgets are spent, but in the end, like the people cannot socialize with each other. And then a beautiful concrete bench is moved by people so they can sit next to each other in this gigantic square.
Not very human-centered.
Simple stuff as well.
Besian, same question, please.
Well, from my humble experience, I would say that inclusion is ultimately the test of progress for shaping future cities. I'm sure that cities will not be judged by their skylines, but by their street lines. Okay. You know how walkable they are, how people interact within the city, and of course how inclusive they are. This is my thought.
Inclusive. Yeah. Okay. It's the buzzword. Samuel?
Yeah, so my recommendation, I think it will be very, very concise and very simple. Human-centered design, the first step of every urban plan should be the people, not the buildings, not the cars, not even the nature, let's say. The people is always the first step. And of course, we need to live with all those elements surrounding us, and they are important for us to survive. So, as was mentioned here, I would recommend reading The Life Between Buildings from Jan Gell. It's a book with more than 50 years, I think, but it is still very actual. I think it is still a futuristic book, and it is very, very clear. And as Jan Gell puts it, when we want to design, successful public spaces with a lot of people, the people go where the people are. So always start from the people.
Perfect. I think we have a few minutes for a Q&A. So if anybody wants to ask a question to the panel, please feel free to do it. Going once, going twice. Okay, gents, thank you so much for your participation here, for the interesting discussion. We were conscious of time, so we also don't want to be late. So I think now we have we have some more presentations, which are concluding presentations. So please bear with us, and thank you all for your attention. And yeah, once again, thank you all for interesting perspectives on this.